Welcome to the Iteration Point. I'm Michael Atkins. Today's guest proves that you don't have to choose just one thing. Some people build entire careers around a single focus. And then there are people like Helder Carvalheira, who seem to collect expertise the way other people collect hobbies. Helder is a technology engineer and leader who's worked on everything from semiconductors to Bluetooth headsets to Amazon Echo devices. He's also a Grammy-nominated record producer, a multi-instrumentalist who's toured North America and Europe, and a hot rod restorer with a shop full of tools he actually uses. What ties it all together? A philosophy his father instilled into him from an early age. The human mind is more powerful than any problem you face. You just have to find a way to apply your brain to the problem. And Helder spent his entire career doing exactly that. Whether it's inventing new wafer robotic systems, producing records, or troubleshooting engine problems. But after 20 years at Plantronics and Polycom and stints at Amazon and in the SaaS world, Helder's realized something. It's not enough to just apply what you already know somewhere new. There has to be something new to learn, and you have to be able to get your hands on it. This is a conversation about staying close to the work that lights you up, about needing to love what you do, not just be good at it, and about what happens when you've collected enough experience that you get to be really selective about what comes next. Let's get into it. I want to welcome to the podcast today, Helder. Really excited for you to be on here and excited to introduce you to the audience and to our listeners. So if you don't mind giving us a brief introduction and tell us about your journey.
All right. Okay. So I'm Helder Carvalheira, actually, more precisely. And I am, if someone were to describe me, I guess I'm a technology developer, engineer, and manager and leader and program manager and all of that. I'm a technology developer who is also a passionate musician and record producer who's also a hot rod restorer. So I like a lot of stuff. I guess that's probably the best way to put it. And maybe just a little bit about my journey and how I got here. So I grew up in an environment where learning and experimentation was kind of the norm. It was kind of drilled into me by my father, who he came from the merchant marine. He worked in engine rooms of ships. He loved airplanes, loved anything mechanical, and instilled all of that experimentation and also the tenacity to go after a problem and to understand that the human mind is far more powerful than any problem that you face. There's that the brain is better than the problem. Okay. All you have to do is find the way to apply the brain to the problem. And that's something that I've instilled in my life and instilled in my kids' lives for that matter. We can solve any problem. All we have to do is put our minds to it, right? And we really can. Think about the history of the world. This is very, very true. So anyway, so that was sort of a fundamental element. It was very, very easy and natural for me to move into a technical career in engineering. Started out as a manufacturing engineer in semiconductor equipment. And this was specifically electron beam lithography gear. And so,
Mhm.
working on mask generation equipment, reticle generation, even direct ride equipment, and working on all kinds of, first as a manufacturing engineer, and all kinds of technologies there, laser, high vacuum, electron beam, precision mechanical, you name it. From manufacturing engineering, did a bunch of field work also in trying to bring up new beta systems and to fixing some hard problems in the field all over the world and fabs all over the world. I was in that business for about 16 years in lithography. Then I went to chemical vapor deposition. That's where I worked on ozone and chemical delivery systems as a mechanical engineer. I also worked on contamination reduction systems. I worked on patents applied for clean ozone development, and then also ultimately into wafer handling and wafer robotics handling specifically is single arm robots, multi-track robots, and all of that's necessary for high throughput wafer transport. And then in the end, also new system architectures for high throughput. And then actually I'm an inventor on a patent for a high throughput, low footprint CVD architecture system. So
So that inventiveness that had instilled in you through your parents and working through that kind of problem solving and putting your mind to solving any problem, really instrumental in being able to drive that early part of your career.
yeah, it was, and I enjoyed actually the hands-on element. I started a wafer robotics transport group. I started a systems engineering group, and, when I got out of the business, I was director of systems engineering at that point. What I really loved was having my toolbox. I really loved having the toolbox and really being able to get in and really understand the technical element of what we were doing to be able to calculate and model these systems. And I used lots of software to figure out how to model many different elements of these systems. And at about the time of the 300 millimeter uh, wafer transition, I got out of the business and I really wanted to go into something completely different because that was B2B technology. I wanted to try consumer. So I ended up going to consumer electronics, working on headsets. And so I was with Plantronics and Polycom for over 20 years and started out there as one of the first Bluetooth program managers, first Bluetooth devices in the world. So right at the front end of Bluetooth, worked through all kinds of internal startups and for all kinds of different communication devices, head of program management, head of engineering, head of program management and engineering. I had quality under me. I had field service. At the end, I was a VP of global engineering services, so I had a pretty wide portion of the business after 20 years there. I had moved into an executive role, and while that can be exciting, really missed being close to the product. I really, really did.
Doing
I
that
ended up
troubleshooting and figuring out the solutions to the
Right,
problem.
yeah, exactly. The solutions, the troubleshooting I was doing was more on the business end, was like, how do we start a design center in China? How do we expand a design center in Mexico or start one there? How do I get these new supplier relationships going, in the consumer electronics space? It was different, right? And I really wanted to get a little closer to the product. Ended up leaving there, and then I went to Amazon Devices, Lab 126, for about 3.5 years working on development process and development strategies for the Echo product lines for, touched on Fire TV, touched on Kindles and Fire tablets and working on those. And I gotta tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Amazon. I mean, it's a challenging environment in a good way. Working with a lot of really smart people there. My leaders there, I think I was really fortunate. I was in a good part of the company there. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
I was gonna ask you about that because it seems like the common thread that I'm hearing from a lot of the people that I've been talking to is it's as important for the satisfaction that we get out of our jobs. It's as important in terms of what we're doing, who doing it with, right? Like the quality of the people that you're engaging with on a day-to-day basis makes
Yes.
or breaks a place for a lot of folks.
It really does. I was in at Plantronics for this long because of the great environment and the great people we had there. And when I went to Amazon, I was a little iffy about how it was going to be. Some of the smartest people I've worked with in my entire career, not just one or two, but all of them. It was really phenomenal. I enjoyed it a lot. I ended up leaving there because I had this nice shiny opportunity to go work on SaaS software, Michael, as you may know.
Yes.
And it was something I hadn't done before. I spent my whole career really working on hardware, and I wanted to go explore the software element. And in a different business, in a business that was in the midst of transition. So there seemed to be a lot of good there for me to learn. And I did learn some, but I felt that I was still a little bit far from the product. In fact, I probably got further from the product than I really wanted to, and there's no really good way for me to get a little bit closer to the product in my role. So right now, I'm in the midst of a transition also, and I'm trying to figure out where to go. My journey has really been one where I've been able to find some new and different things and find something new to learn along the way. One thing that's never made me thoroughly happy is to simply take what I know and apply it somewhere else. That's not enough for me. Now, it may be enough for others, but for me, there's got to be something new and substantially new.
You have to get
And
your hands on it to really be satisfied
I
with
have to
the
get my
work
hands
that you're
on it.
doing.
I have to
Yeah,
get my hands on it. And, if I don't have an opportunity to get my hands on it, then I I'll do the job, but will I love the job is the difference, right? And I gotta be able to love it, right? So, in the midst of all of this, I've spent my whole lifetime working on cars and restoring them and hot rodding them, and so, and I do a lot of that work to this day. A nice shop that I love to work with and help my friends work on my cars, work on others. So that keeps me close to tools. And then the other one is as a musician, I'm a multi-instrumentalist and I've played in bands and toured North America, toured in Europe, and played, just been a studio musician. I've been a road musician. I continue to be a working musician now, soon to go back into the studio and do some more work in the studios. Songwriter, Grammy nominated also for a record that I produced a few years back when I'm going back with that artist again. And we're going to start working on another record as well. So I've been in and out of professional studios since the 80s. And so I've got, you know, um, I've got many, many, many recording projects under my belt, many releases and commercial releases over the years. So all that kind of factors in. One of the reasons I love being at Plantronics was audio, and there's a lot of commonality between those two. Uh,
absolutely.
so I'm sort of at a point where you know my next move, whatever it is, I gotta love it,
And you've got
and
enough interests and varied interests and experience across so many different things
yeah.
that you've got a lot of different potential paths in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. And, I'm not a I've been reading a couple books on the history of, semiconductors, and the time I spent there, which is 16 years. I spent 16 years there, and I'm super proud of that. When you think about well, let me back up a little bit. For me, one of the things that's also super important, not enough for me to love it. I need to know that what I do is having an impact on the around me, impact on people, on individuals, or even a large group of individuals, right? But it's gotta be able to make the world better somehow. And I look at the work, particularly what I did over in the semiconductor equipment. Geez, we were right in the midst of all these transitions, from 4-inch wafers to 6-inch, okay, to 8-inch to 12-inch, okay. And by the time I left, we were trying to push line widths of 180 nanometers. We started out like over a micron. I mean, it's just that was
Very, very
such
Moore's Law, right? And the whole
completely.
applicability of that.
But you think about the world that we live in. Think about this that we're doing right now. This call, this podcast, this video, this audio, enabled by all of that. And I think that is something that we all should aspire to do is how can you go and be and and have one little piece, have that one hand that's helping to push that train forward. Yes, it's a train, right? You could put one hand and there's, tens of thousands of other people that have their hands on it. But if you have your hand in pushing forward something that is going to change the world, it's one of the best things that you can do. And if you can
I
love it
agree.
at the same time, it's magical.
Yeah.
If you
And
get
I
all
think the
those,
key
it's
thing,
magical.
right, is making sure you're pushing the right train, right? That's and which train do you want to focus on? Because there's so many different opportunities and there's so much potential within each of us.
Yeah.
And only so much time, right? Like time is a limiting factor for everybody here.
It it really is. Every time I look in the mirror, I see gray hair. So hey,
Me
yeah,
too.
time is absolutely a limiting factor. But you're right. What are the things that you want to push towards? Right, that you want to help them. Obviously, AI is a major one right now. Not the only one, but a major one that's arguably is bigger than the internet even in terms of its impact on humanity. I mean,
Got the potential for that impact, I think.
potential, the
Both
potential for that.
positive and negative, right? I mean, we certainly hear a lot of stories about people that are going through transition because of AI impacting their workplace. And
Yeah, it's
when you think
absolutely true.
about how can we responsibly use these new tools to accelerate the train that we're trying to push, right? But not leave anybody behind or heaven forbid have the train roll over them.
Right,
Those are kind of interesting things and that we're going to be shaping up over the course of the next, you know, couple
right.
of years, I think.
So let's just think about that one for a minute, right? anything that any individual, any activity that any individual can do to help to shape that so that it
Yeah,
could be a little bit better for our
perfect.
world as well as the world of our children, of the next generation. I mean, these are real important things for us to all try and work on and try and find, a better way to for it to be for it to be deployed, for it to be accepted, for it to be implemented. These are the things that for me, I think are so important. And if one has the ability to try and steer into something that can really be that impactful and you're doing it in a way that addresses your passions, that's magical. I've been fortunate to have been able to do that. And I tell you, it is really great. And I've also been where I'm not doing that. I can tell you, the days are long.
That is
The
great.
days are
Yeah,
long when you're not doing
yeah,
that.
yeah.
When it comes to transition, this is exactly what I'm trying to navigate right now. And to me, it's not necessarily a case of I'm going to go find, I have to find something right now. And by the way, many people have to find something right now. Okay.
That's right.
Yes. In fact, that is, I'd argue that's more normal is that somebody has to find something right now. And I completely understand that. If it's possible for you to try and get something that drives your passion and that helps to move the world, then that's a magical place to be. And I'm also not entirely clear in what form that's going to take for me. The traditional full-time employment. There's the consulting mode. Okay.
Sure.
There's the mentoring mode, right? And the teaching mode, which are all areas that I'm also really eager to explore. Here's the truth. We have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience. If we don't do something to get that out of our heads,
And
it's a
share it
lost
with
opportunity for
everybody
future
else.
generations.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree completely. If we don't share the
There
things
you go.
with other people and our knowledge and our thoughts and our helping each other guide, the next generation through this collective experience called humanity, then it's not adding that value. So I think
Absolutely
that's
true.
important to keep in
Yeah,
mind.
one of the things that I did on the side several years back, I was on the board of directors. In fact, I was treasurer also for a while of Santa Cruz Works, which is a local tech incubator here in Santa Cruz, California. We were aligned at the time with UC Santa Cruz and helping to dispense and guide the grants that were funded for research through UC Santa Cruz. And what was coming out of some of these grants were these startup opportunities from students, entrepreneurial opportunities from students that to start to pursue technologies, to productize them. And one of the most enjoyable parts of my career was the time I spent there because I was mentoring. And there were these students, these university students that had these ideas to develop these products, but didn't have an idea on how to productize it or even how to turn it into a business or even who to talk to do either of those. So that's where I stepped in and I made connections, connected them with industrial designers, connected them with short run prototypers. I advised them on what it's going to take to be able to take something ready for an alpha test or for a beta test. That you can't have, something that's hammered together with wooden nails. And I mean it seriously, what's hammered together with wooden nails. And so you're going to go out and beta test it. No. You got a long way to go, buddy. But here's how you get there. And here's the steps you need to take. And I know a guy. Okay, we'll go talk to that guy. Oh, yeah, and I know a guy over there. Go talk to that guy there
Connections are incredibly important
and making
for
the connections.
sure.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was part of that paying it forward. That was part of that getting that brain dump out of my head and helping out others. That was a kick in the pants, man. I really enjoyed that. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
And so if money were no object, is that the kind of thing that you would want to be that you
Yeah,
could see yourself doing? Is that part of your
absolutely.
vision? Yeah.
I can. And I've been talking with some folks even just as recently as last week on those sorts of opportunities of being of helping some of these startup or starting companies or entrepreneurial ideas when someone has an idea and they don't have anywhere they have no idea where to turn. Well, I got a career's full of connections. If you want to get something made, I know who to talk to. And so these are the things. Yes, that's That's probably the most fun thing I can think of, and if it's
I can see
something that's
that kinda
actually
light the
helping.
fire in
Oh,
you
yeah, you see
as
that, huh?
well. Yeah.
And if it's something that happens to really, be critical for the world, changing the world somehow, that'll be fantastic. One that I worked with was a water management startup, and I won't get into too many details beyond that, but think about the problem that we have as a human race with water. It's massive. You can't live without it. Yet, in many places of the world, we're starting to live without it, okay? Water management, how to actually do it right is a huge thing going forward, right? And honestly, for my future generations, I hope to have enough water for them to be able to live the way that we live, right? So it's important for us to go tackle. That's just one. That didn't even talk about AI. I wasn't even talking about clean energy. I wasn't even talking about medical. I mean, just water. There's one right there. Get that right, and you save the world, right?
Well, and the challenge right now is, of course, cooling centers use a ton of water
Hmm.
or AI for cooling the data centers and the environmental impact. It's really interesting. I had a conversation the other day with somebody about, the pitch to use AI to help solve our environmental problems ignores the fact that AI is contributing to the environmental problems. Maybe there's a force multiplier there. Maybe there's some logarithmic scale of, getting the solutions, accelerates faster than the environmental impact at some point. But yeah, it's a tremendous opportunity and I would say risk at the same time. And we
You
really
see,
don't, just because we don't really know what the impact is going to be yet.
yeah, reminds me of a conversation I had with a good friend of mine just tail end of last week. We were talking about electric cars, right? And uh, he was very skeptical about electric cars because of the entire supply chain and development
Sure.
chain of an electric car. That is it truly clean? My point, and here was my
Buying,
argument.
yeah.
Exactly. So here's my argument to it. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying this is my perspective. Okay. Yes, you are right. The data shows everything that you're saying. But what's the alternative? Do nothing? No. And in fact, maybe we don't look as electric cars as the end state, but rather a step that helps us on some other path that will ultimately be able to solve the rest of that supply chain problem. So it's
Well,
not a case of
right.
don't do anything because it's not perfect. Take a step because then you'll learn from that and go to the next one.
Yeah, the electric cars that we have being even made today are not the same. They don't have the same environmental impact that the ones 10 years ago had when they were
A
being
very good point.
manufactured. And
Very
the
good point.
technology increases, the research and development these companies are putting into solving these problems doesn't happen unless you start with the first in, the Nissan Leafs and the, early Teslas. And it
Exactly.
has to ramp up from there because, you're not going to start out at perfect. So don't
Right.
let don't let that get in the way of some progress.
Yeah. Don't let the perfect get in the way of the good.
Yeah,
And that's ultimately
that's
what
right.
it is. But you're
Yeah,
you're absolutely right, Michael. And that's exactly my point here is no, this is not the end state. It's a step.
right. And it's
And
the
by the
same for
way,
AI.
the more we time and effort we spend there, and then we're just using this just an example, by the way. More time and
Yeah,
effort
yeah,
we
of course.
spend there to try and address these. And let's talk about batteries for a second. What about these solid state batteries? What about these new battery technologies that within a few years they're going to become mainstream and they and the energy potential in these is enormous compared to what we have today. And could that change the balance of the contamination that by the supply chain or the development chain?
That's right.
It could. It could. But to do nothing is not the right answer. Right?
That's right.
So I think that there's so many of these sorts of problems for us to solve. To me, do nothing is not the answer. Okay. Someone else may have a different answer, and I respect that. But to me, do nothing's not an answer.
I agree. I agree. I think, we have a lot of opportunities in front of us, right? And in every case. And I think it's again putting the weight behind the right train to be able to know that this is where we want progress to go. And, not trying to go back in time and pretend like this timeline doesn't exist. We have the problems that we have, so let's work on solving them, right?
Right.
And try and make some progress and try and make the world a little bit better. I love that you brought that up because that is so important to me. when I'm looking at my next opportunities, I really want to make sure that I'm lending my expertise and my knowledge to an organization that's doing something that I can really get behind and feel good about, and working with a team that is energizing me as well, right? Like those are all the
Absolutely.
factors that kind of go into making the decision about who to work with.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I that really resonated with me, and I think a lot of our listeners will probably feel the same way.
Yeah, yeah, that's these are sort of underpinnings for me and why it's okay, I'll
And
take a little time and figure it.
yeah, you take the time and you do the other stuff that energizes you. You've got the
Mhm.
music and you've got the hot rods, and those are
Yeah.
all great ways of staying connected to community and being engaged and passing on knowledge as well, right? And
Mhm.
all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
But if if someone wanted to avail themselves of all this expertise that Heller that you have, what would be the best way to get in contact with you?
Just ping me on LinkedIn, okay?
Okay.
And there probably aren't a whole lot of Helder Carvalheiras on LinkedIn. Maybe,
Yeah.
but
I'll put a
I
link
don't.
in the show notes as well to get to
Actually,
you
that'd be
directly.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
And, just ping me on LinkedIn. I'm checking it regularly and love to talk, even if it's just to chat. And by the way, even if it's just to share, you know? I mean, I'm happy to share whatever, happy to have a conversation. Just that alone. Hey, if I've got some information that can help somebody, I'll help. That's it. Let's
That's a
talk.
beautiful thing. That's really great, and that's one of the reasons why I started this, right?
Mhm.
Was in order to connect people and broaden the network effect and, get people in connection with each other.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I personally you know, very grateful to have been able to work with you, and know
Me
what you're
too.
all the stuff that you're capable of, and yeah, I know that anybody else that avails themselves of that will be as lucky as I was.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
and and by the way, I thoroughly enjoyed working with you and
yeah.
you were sharp, 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 man. It's like you understood a lot of the business and it's like, whatever Michael said is like, okay, Michael's right. Because Michael's right.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far. I
Oh yeah, I will. I will.
Okay,
I'll go
alright.
that
Well,
far.
thank you. Thank you. That's, appreciated. So, Helder's in the midst of a transition right now, figuring out what's next. And with his range of experience, from semiconductors to consumer electronics to SaaS, plus his work as a musician and a producer, he's got a lot of potential paths in front of him. But as he said, whatever it is, he's got to love it, and he needs to know it's having an impact on the world. If you want to connect with Helder, whether you've got an opportunity that fits or you just want to talk shop about product development, audio engineering, or restoring hot rods, reach out to him on LinkedIn. We'll put a link in the show notes. And as Helder mentioned, he's happy to share what he knows. Even if it's just a conversation, he's there to help. One thing that really struck me in this conversation was Helder's insistence that the brain is better than the problem. It's something his father taught him, and something he's taught his own kids, something that he's carried with him through decades of solving hard problems across wildly different fields. It's a good reminder that persistence and curiosity can take you pretty much anywhere. Thanks for listening to The Iteration Point. New episodes drop every Tuesday. If this resonated, hit follow and share it with someone who needs to hear that they can solve any problem they're facing. And if you've got a story about following your curiosity wherever it leads, visit theiterationpoint.com. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Michael Atkins. See you next time.